My name is May Weaver, and I was 32 years old when I realized my family didn't just take from me, they planned it. The realization didn't come like a storm. It came quietly, like a crack in the ceiling that slowly widens until the whole room falls apart. That night was ordinary in every way. The city hummed outside my apartment, streetlights flickering lazily, and I was curled up on my sofa, laptop on my knees, scrolling through emails that didn't matter. My birthday was a week away, and for the first time in years, I had promised myself a small celebration. A weekend trip somewhere sunny, a simple dinner, nothing extravagant. Then my phone buzzed. A notification slid across the screen. Credit limit reached. I frowned, fingers hovering over the screen. That couldn't be right. I hadn't made any major purchases. I hadn't booked any flights. No shopping sprees, no splurges. Just my quiet life, counting down to a birthday I thought I deserved to enjoy. My stomach sank as I opened my banking app. $29,842. Gone. I stared at the number like it was a foreign language, trying to decipher it, willing my mind to find a mistake, a glitch, anything. But the number didn't blink. It didn't apologize. It sat there, merciless and final. My first instinct was to call the bank, pacing the narrow stretch of my living room while the automated system droned in my ear. When the representative finally answered, her voice was calm, almost lethally calm. "Miss Weaver," she said after a pause, "these transactions were authorized using your credentials and PIN." I froze. "That's impossible," I whispered. She repeated it again, gently, professionally, with the patience of someone explaining to a child. "They were verified and approved, Miss Weaver." Approved. The word rang hollow in my ears. Only 2 people had access to my PIN and banking info. Only 2 people could have done this. My heart hammered, a drumbeat of panic I couldn't quiet. I dialed my father's number. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey May," he said, casual. Too casual. "My credit card," I said quickly, skipping the usual pleasantries. "It's maxed out. Almost $30,000. Do you know anything about it?" There was a pause. Not confusion, not surprise. Just silence. Heavy, deliberate, suffocating. Then he sighed. "The family needed it more than you, sweetheart. Don't worry, you're doing fine. You make good money. We trust you can handle it." Something inside me cracked. "You used my credit card?" I said slowly. "It's not like that," he snapped, voice sharp. "You always act like your money is yours alone. We're family. Sometimes sacrifices have to be made." I could hear my mother laughing softly in the background. "Oh, honestly," she said lightly. "Your birthday plans were nice, but this money had more important uses. You'll understand." The room tilted around me. Years of careful saving, nights working late, weekends spent patching holes in their lives, they never counted. I had quietly built my life while propping theirs up. And now this. I swallowed hard and said, "Don't ever call me again." I hung up, heart pounding, but tears didn't come. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. Instead, I did what I should have done years ago. I took control. One by one, I accessed every account that had been tied to my name. Joint mortgages, co-signed loans, personal lines of credit. I closed them. I canceled them. I reclaimed what was mine. No explanations, no warnings, just deliberate clicks and keystrokes. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. Boundaries that should have existed from the start. As I sat there, watching the city lights blink through my window, I realized the truth. This didn't start last night. This had been years in the making. And whether they knew it or not, my family was about to find out what life looked like without me holding it together. It started small. A few $100s here, a few thousand there. Every emergency. A chance to guilt me into giving more. My first real job out of college became the family's piggy bank. They trained me. My father's stern reminders, my mother's soft insistence, Leia's fragile excuses, they were all part of the same pattern. I thought I was being responsible, being loving. But I was being used. Leia's student loans, her therapy bills, her latest wellness retreat, they all came out of my account while I watched friends my age move into apartments, take vacations, buy cars. I stayed quiet, thinking it was normal. I told myself, it's family. This is what family does. But when the $30,000 disappeared that night, the illusion shattered. I realized that family had never been family. It had been a system built to use me. And now, finally, I was done letting them. The next morning, I barely slept. My mind raced, replaying every family gathering, every little favor I'd done for them. It wasn't just the $30,000. They had taken far more than money. They had taken time, freedom, and pieces of my self-worth. And for years, I hadn't even realized it. It started innocently enough, or at least that's what they made me believe. A few $100s to cover property taxes one tight month. A couple thousand to fix my father's truck. Leia's rent when she decided to quit her job to pursue her passion projects. I had said yes to all of it, convinced I was helping my family, convinced I was being a good daughter. "You're doing so well, May," my mother would say, smiling tightly. "We're just so proud." Proud? Or just relieved someone else was footing the bill? I remember the first real wake-up call. I was 25, barely out of college, juggling my first full-time job and a side gig tutoring. My father's truck had finally died, and he needed a new one. Could I co-sign? Could I cover a down payment? I said yes, of course. After all, it was family. But every time I checked my bank account after that, I realized it wasn't just helping. It was disappearing. The money wasn't going toward gratitude or responsibility. It was vanishing into their endless needs. Leia was always a little different, fragile, or at least that's what they told me. Creative, sensitive, someone who just needed support. Her yoga retreats, her influencer workshops, her wellness courses, they were all funded by me. My mother would wave her hand when I hesitated. "It's nothing to you. She'll pay you back someday. Family helps family, May." And I believed them. For years I believed them. But the truth was staring me in the face now. That $30,000 wasn't the first time. It was the first time I had finally seen the pattern clearly. The previous loans, the co-signed mortgages, the emergency payments, they weren't emergencies at all. They were a system built to keep me giving, to train me to associate love with sacrifice. I thought about my birthdays. Every year, it was something practical, never something for me. I saved, secretly hoping to do something small for myself, only to have my funds quietly siphoned away. They framed it as love, as necessity, as family unity. But love didn't come with ledgers. Love didn't require signed forms and co-signed debts. What they called love was entitlement masquerading as affection. I started remembering things differently. My first promotion at work, celebrated with a small dinner, quietly thrilled to finally have my own money to enjoy. Then my father mentioned casually that he needed a little help with taxes. My mother added Leia's credit card bill for good measure. And just like that, my triumph became theirs. Every year, every milestone, I had been handing them a victory that was mine. And the lies, they were everywhere. 2 years ago, my father told me he'd lost his job. "Just a rough patch," he said, eyes downcast, rehearsed shame etched across his face. "I'll pay you back as soon as things stabilize." I had transferred nearly $40,000 from my savings, convinced I was helping my dad stand on his feet. The truth? He hadn't been laid off. He had been fired for embezzlement. And they never told me. I had been complicit in my own exploitation because I thought I was helping family. That realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Every sleepless night, every extra shift, every careful budget, it had been building their empire of dependence on me. And Leia? She had played her role perfectly, posting smiling selfies, wellness retreats, and gratitude captions, while I quietly bore the cost. The anger simmered beneath the surface. I felt it in my chest, tight and raw. But I also felt clarity. For the first time I could see their strategy. And for the first time, I felt the beginnings of freedom, the realization that I didn't have to continue feeding the system. I remember sitting on my balcony that morning, coffee in hand, staring at the city. The air felt sharper, cleaner, like I could finally breathe without carrying someone else's weight. It was terrifying. I had loved them, obeyed them, and sacrificed for them for over a decade. And yet, now I knew that love had been conditional, transactional, and ultimately false. But knowing wasn't enough. The pattern was too entrenched, the debt too large. I needed action. Small steps would no longer suffice. I had to reclaim everything. Not for revenge, not for spite, but for myself. My boundaries had been ignored for years. My generosity had been weaponized. And if I wanted to survive, if I wanted to finally feel safe in my own life, I had to break the cycle completely. That day, I made a list. Accounts to close. Loans to revoke. Cards to freeze. I would act carefully, deliberately, because this wasn't just about money, it was about asserting my life back. And as I scrolled down the list, I realized one important truth. This wasn't selfish. This was self-preservation. By the time the sun set, I had started the first steps. I sent emails to banks, requested account freezes, and confirmed the details of every joint responsibility I had unwittingly accepted. Each click, each confirmation was like reclaiming a piece of myself I hadn't realized I'd lost. And with every action, I felt lighter. The family wouldn't like it. They would try to guilt me, to threaten me, to paint themselves as victims. But I didn't care anymore. I was done being their safety net. I was done letting them dictate my life, my money, my freedom. The $30,000 was just the trigger. The real crime had been years of slow, invisible theft, the theft of my autonomy. And now, for the first time, I was ready to fight back. Not with anger, but with boundaries. The days that followed were a blur of quiet preparation. Every interaction with my family felt charged, like static before a storm. I didn't answer calls immediately. I didn't respond to texts. And yet, I could feel their presence everywhere. In my inbox, in voicemails, in the way my phone vibrated like it was alive, demanding attention. I wasn't running away from them. I was preparing. I was reclaiming. And I knew they would notice. I started with the small administrative steps. Closing the joint lines of credit my parents had hidden in plain sight. Canceling the co-signed loans that had allowed them to live beyond their means. Each email sent, each request confirmed, felt like a quiet act of rebellion, but also of survival. It wasn't revenge. It was me finally asserting that my life and my money belonged to me. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, pen in hand, drafting a list. Every transaction, every loan, every debt I had unknowingly guaranteed over the years was catalogued. Leia's bills, my father's debts, the house payments I had quietly been sustaining, they were all there. And next to each one, a note. Closed, frozen, reclaimed. I remembered the nights I had cried alone over bills I couldn't cover, over dreams I had to postpone, over vacations I never took while they lived as if I didn't exist. It wasn't just the money. It was the control. The manipulation. The slow erosion of my autonomy disguised as family love. By the weekend, I felt ready. I knew a confrontation was inevitable. They would come for me, either to plead, to argue, or to guilt trip. And I had to be prepared, not just emotionally, but strategically. I wanted them to feel the weight of consequences, but I also wanted to maintain my composure. I wanted clarity, not chaos. It started subtly. First, my mother called. "May, we need to talk," she said. Her voice was tight, measured. A warning, but also a test. "I'm busy," I replied. Calm, flat, neutral. "We're your family, May. This isn't just about money. We're worried about you," she pressed. I felt a flicker of old guilt. A small, familiar tug at my chest. But I ignored it. "I'm fine," I said. "I don't need help managing your problems." The calls escalated. My father's voice, sharper now. "You can't do this, May. You're tearing the family apart. This isn't how we raised you." I stayed silent for a moment, listening to the words that were meant to crush me. And then I realized something. They weren't family anymore. They had stopped being the people who nurtured me, who guided me, who genuinely cared. They were manipulators, users, people who had relied on me as their financial and emotional crutch for years. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. I returned home from work one evening, parking my car in the lot, and saw them waiting. My father's posture was rigid, arms crossed, jaw tight. My mother hovered beside him, mascara streaked, trying for a mixture of innocence and outrage. Leia leaned against the wall, looking bored and entitled, as if this was all an inconvenient interruption to her day. I didn't flinch. I didn't hesitate. I stepped out of the car and faced them. "What did you do?" my father barked, pointing a finger like it could strike me. "Do you have any idea what this means?" "I protected myself," I said, voice steady even. The calm I had cultivated over the past week made my words feel heavier than any scream could have. his face contorted with rage. The bank called. You froze everything. You closed lines of credit. You took control of what isn't yours. I nodded. Yes. I took control of what is mine. For years, you treated my money as if it was your own, as if my life was a tool for your convenience. I am done enabling you. My mother stepped forward, voice trembling with faux vulnerability. We're your parents. How could you do this to us? Family doesn't steal, I said clearly. Family doesn't lie. And family doesn't treat one daughter like an ATM. Leia scoffed, voice sharp. Oh my God, May, you're being dramatic. It's just money. You're exaggerating. I met her eyes, unblinking. It's never just money, when it funds your entire lifestyle while draining me dry. You lived on my sacrifices. You thrived on my generosity. And now you get to face the consequences. They were silent for a moment, disbelief etched into every line of their faces. My calm, my certainty, it threw them off. They were used to fear, guilt, tears, but not control. Then my father's anger flared again, almost violently. You think you're better than us now? You think you're too good to be part of this family? I'm better, I said evenly. Not because of arrogance. Not because of pride. Because I finally chose myself. The tension was electric, like a wire straining under pressure. Every word I spoke, every movement I made, was deliberate. I had rehearsed this confrontation in my mind 1,000 times, and now it played out perfectly. And in that moment, I realized something even deeper. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was reclaiming my life. The next morning, I woke to a silence I hadn't experienced in years. No phone buzzing. No urgent voicemails. No guilt-laden texts. The quiet felt strange, almost sacred, as if the world itself had paused to let me breathe. But I knew this calm was temporary. They would notice. They always did. By mid-morning, the first signs of the consequences hit. Notifications from banks, loan offices, and mortgage providers flooded in. Lines frozen. Accounts closed. Mortgages temporarily suspended until review. My father's truck repossession notice. Leia's credit card over-limit warnings. It all came at once, like a wave finally breaking after years of steady erosion. And yet, despite the chaos I had unleashed in their carefully maintained world, I felt nothing. Not fear. Not guilt. Not anger. Just clarity. Every action I had taken was deliberate, justified, and necessary. For years, I had carried the weight of their irresponsibility and entitlement. For years, I had believed that keeping them afloat was my duty. That ended now. By noon, their calls started. My father first, voice sharp, tight with panic. May, you don't understand. We're losing everything. The house, the truck. You can't do this. I understand perfectly, I said calmly, sipping my coffee. You created this situation by treating my life and money as your personal safety net. I'm not responsible for your debts or your failures. My mother followed next. Tears in her voice now, mascara smudged from an all-night performance of innocence. Maya, please. The house. The bills. Leia. We can't manage without you. I didn't answer. Silence had become my shield. Every unanswered call, every unread message reinforced a lesson they had never wanted to learn. I would no longer sacrifice myself for them. By mid-afternoon, the fallout spread further. The mortgage my parents had leaned on me to maintain, my name co-signed, my money indirectly covering, was officially flagged by the bank. Foreclosure proceedings were initiated. The truck that had always symbolized my father's stubborn pride was gone, picked up before dawn by a tow company. Leia's lifestyle, propped up by my generosity and patience, collapsed. She had no emergency funds, no credit to rely on, and nowhere to turn. I watched all of this unfold quietly from my apartment balcony, the city stretching below me like a living, breathing backdrop to the chaos. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I simply observed. I had spent years being reactive, cleaning up crises after crises, believing it was my responsibility. Now, for the first time, I could watch the consequences play out without being pulled into the storm. 2 days later, my father called again. Desperation in his voice, shaking hands evident in the trembling pitch. He pleaded. May, please the house your mother, Leia. We're falling apart. You have to help. I didn't answer. I didn't even look at the phone. His panic was no longer my burden. I realized, with a clarity that surprised me, that their collapse wasn't my failure. It was the natural result of years of avoidance, entitlement, and deception. I had tried to carry them, but no one could survive the weight of someone else's irresponsibility indefinitely. Leia showed up at my building later that week. She looked smaller, deflated somehow. No designer bag slung over her shoulder. No smug smile. Just a young woman facing reality for the first time. The consequences of relying entirely on someone else staring back at her. I need to talk to you, she said, voice quiet, almost ashamed. I stepped aside, letting her enter the lobby, but my posture remained firm, unyielding. You had your chance to handle your life responsibly. You didn't. I'm done covering for you. Her face twisted, confusion and panic mingling. May, you can't just. I already did everything. Not my problem, I said simply. You made choices. I'm not fixing them anymore. Security had been watching quietly, and within moments, they stepped forward politely to guide her out. She looked around as if the world had betrayed her, and in that moment, I realized something. She had never faced real consequences before. And now she was learning the truth. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment, city lights reflecting across the walls, feeling an unexpected sense of peace. The weight of years of silent giving, endless sacrifices, and constant worry had finally lifted. My bank account was intact, untouched. My finances were mine again. The constant anxiety that had kept me awake for decades, the fear of another call, another emergency, another hidden debt, was gone. I remembered the moments I had doubted myself, wondering if I was being too harsh, too unforgiving, too cold. But I realized no. I wasn't cold. I was self-preserving. I was finally prioritizing my own life, my own freedom, my own sanity. The city hummed around me, indifferent but comforting, as I poured a cup of tea and watched the sun set. 4 years, silence had meant danger. Another emergency, another guilt-laden call, another burden. Now silence meant safety, autonomy, and clarity. I could finally live for myself. That night, I slept deeply, without the familiar knot of anxiety in my chest. I had crossed a line they had thought unbreachable, and in doing so, I had discovered something even more powerful than control over my finances. I had discovered my own strength. For the first time in decades, I felt light. I felt free. And I knew this was only the beginning of truly living for myself, not for anyone who had only ever seen me as a resource. Weeks passed, and the silence from my family settled like a weightless cloak around me. Their frantic calls stopped, their voicemails no longer piled up. It was almost surreal, not because I missed them, but because I had spent decades waiting for this exact moment. A life unclaimed by someone else's debt, demands, or manipulations. The first morning after the storm, I walked through my apartment with a strange sense of ownership. Every corner, every shelf, every drawer was mine, completely and unapologetically mine. The furniture, the books, the art on the walls, it had always been mine, but now it finally felt that way. No one could claim a piece of it, no one could turn my life into a ledger of obligation, and no one could manipulate my choices. I began small, deliberate acts of self-care that I had neglected for years. I cooked myself a proper breakfast, slow and intentional, savoring every bite without checking my phone. I made a list of things I had postponed: travel, hobbies, even simple joys like reading a novel uninterrupted. I realized that freedom wasn't just a financial state, it was an emotional one. And for the first time I truly felt it. Travel had always been a dream I shelved for someone else. I booked a flight to Iceland first, craving the stark, quiet beauty of something untouched by anyone else's influence. Standing beneath the northern lights, the cold wind brushing my face, I realized how heavy the past had been, and how light I felt without it. I could breathe again. I could be alone without feeling guilty. I could live without carrying the weight of their mistakes. I also sought help, something I had postponed repeatedly in the name of being responsible for everyone else. Therapy became a sanctuary. My therapist's office was a place where I could unspool the years of manipulation, the financial control, the constant pressure disguised as family love. One afternoon, as we sat across from each other, She said something that lodged itself in my chest. You didn't have parents, May. You had dependents. The words stung at first. But then they liberated me. It wasn't love I had been denied, it was recognition, respect, and autonomy. They had trained me to confuse obligation with affection, sacrifice with worth. And now I could see it clearly. I started taking intentional steps to rebuild my life beyond their shadow. A small condo purchase came first. Nothing flashy, but entirely mine. Paid in full. No co-signers, no invisible strings, no secret debts. I felt the walls around me hum with freedom as I walked from room to room, imagining a life I had never been allowed to claim. Work became a place of joy again. Not just a means to an end, but a platform to grow, learn, and invest in myself. I explored new hobbies, rediscovered old passions, and allowed myself small luxuries I had long denied. Art classes, quiet dinners alone, even a spontaneous weekend getaway. Each choice, each decision, felt revolutionary because it was entirely mine. Meanwhile, my family's calls dwindled further. My father, once a pillar of pride and authority, was now a shadow trying to survive the consequences of decades of avoidance. My mother's social media posts, once curated to perfection, now showed cracks of panic. Leia, the sister who had thrived on my support, was suddenly invisible, scrambling to hold her life together. I didn't gloat. I didn't rejoice. Their struggles weren't my responsibility, and my empathy didn't extend to enabling them any longer. Freedom, I realized, wasn't just escaping their control. It was recognizing that my life had value independent of anyone else's expectations. It was choosing myself over guilt, autonomy over obligation, and clarity over manipulation. I laughed quietly one evening, standing in my empty apartment, realizing how strange it was that I had spent so many years associating love with sacrifice. That lie no longer had power over me. Even simple things became moments of triumph. Eating alone in a cafe without checking my phone every 5 minutes. Sleeping without dread. Planning vacations without considering their emergencies. Every small decision reinforced the truth. I had reclaimed my life. I had survived years of emotional and financial debt they never intended to repay. And now, for the first time, I wasn't afraid of silence. It was no longer a warning of another crisis, but the sound of peace. One afternoon, while organizing my finances, I found myself smiling at the clarity of my records. No hidden loans, no co-signed liabilities, no creeping lines of credit. Everything was mine. It had taken years to untangle, but finally, I was free. And I knew that freedom wasn't just about money. It was about boundaries, respect, and choosing my life over obligations that were never truly mine. That night, as the city lights flickered below my balcony, I felt an unshakable calm. I was alone, but not lonely. I was free, but not reckless. I was me, finally, fully, without compromise. And if they called again, or tried to manipulate, I knew I had the strength to remain unmoved. Because I had built something stronger than fear or guilt. I had built my own life on my own terms. Desert sun and blue lake balance. Left side close-up woman. Desert realism with blue oasis lake. Left close-up portrait. Desert atmosphere, blue lake. Left profile close-up messy hair. Photographic desert lake. Left side close-up woman. Desert landscape depth, blue lake. Left close-up portrait. Natural desert look, blue lake. Left profile close-up. Desert contrast scene, blue lake. Left side close-up woman. Desert dunes framing blue lake. Left close-up portrait. Desert heat tones, blue lake. Left profile close-up. Desert lake serenity. Left side close-up woman. Desert minimalism with blue lake. Left close-up portrait. Desert nature realism, blue lake. Left profile close-up. Desert sky reflection in blue lake. Left side close-up woman. Desert wind mood, blue lake. Left close-up portrait. Desert lake realism photography. Left profile close-up. Desert environment depth, blue lake. Left side close-up woman. Desert solitude, blue lake. Left close-up portrait. Desert sun glow, blue lake. Left profile close-up. Desert natural beauty, blue lake. Left side close-up. Desert lake contrast realism. Left close-up portrait. Desert scene with vivid blue water. Left profile close-up woman. Desert landscape realism. blue lake, left side close-up. Desert nature calmness, blue lake, left close-up portrait. Desert wind motion hair, blue lake, left profile close-up. Desert oasis clarity, blue lake, left side close-up woman. Desert color harmony, blue lake, left close-up portrait. Desert wilderness realism, blue lake, left profile close-up. Desert lake stillness, left side close-up woman. Desert tones and blue water, left close-up portrait. Desert realism depth, blue lake, left profile close-up. Desert scenery with blue oasis, left side close-up woman. Desert photography style, blue lake, left close-up portrait. Desert calm environment, blue lake, left profile close-up. Desert natural realism, blue lake, left side close-up. Desert open space, blue lake, left close-up portrait. Desert sand glow, blue lake, left profile close-up. Desert minimal scene, blue lake, left side close-up woman. Desert lake reflection realism, left close-up portrait. Desert quiet mood, blue lake, left profile close-up. Desert realism cinematic light, blue lake, left close-up. Desert atmosphere with blue lake, left side close-up woman. Desert wilderness calm, blue lake, left profile close-up. Desert clarity scene, blue lake, left close-up portrait. Desert harmony colors, blue lake, left side close-up. Desert nature balance, blue lake, left profile close-up. Desert realism focus, blue lake, left close-up portrait. Desert open horizon, blue lake, left side close-up woman. Desert sunlight realism, blue lake, left profile close-up. Desert mood photography, blue lake, left close-up portrait. Ultra-realistic desert oasis with deep blue lake, left side close-up of a 30-year-old woman with messy hair, natural light, real-life photography.